So, Excellencies, honorable guest speakers, ladies and gentlemen, now I would like to invite our next guest speakers, Professor Tos Hin Lam from Singapore, and his topic is Scaling Up an Innovative Practice for Mathematics Instructions, Factors, and Challenges. And we will play the video presentation record for Professor. So thank you. Please welcome.
Good day to everyone. I'm very happy to be invited to give a lecture in this first virtual conference in Cambodia. The title of my talk is Scaling Up and Sustaining an Innovative Approach in Teaching Mathematics. And of course, I'll be talking about the challenges as well. I'm from Singapore, the National Institute of Education in Singapore, Mathematics and Mathematics Education Academic Group. This is my contact email as you see on this screen. If you have any questions to contact me later, I'm more than happy to answer you. Of course, after the whole talk, you can still email me here. Now, the title of my talk, there are two dimensions which I would like you to take note of. One is the scaling up, and the other one is sustaining. I am talking about a research project that I have conducted in Singapore on the teaching of mathematics. And in today's talk, I'm not focusing so much on the innovative approach, but rather I will talk more on the scaling up and the sustainability of this innovative approach in teaching mathematics. The outline of my talk will be this. I will first briefly talk about the research project that I've conducted in Singapore. It's a mathematics education research project. Then I will share with you some of the preliminary findings. And based on these preliminary findings, we have the motivation to scale up the approach that we believe that it will work in most of the Singapore mathematics classroom. Just the scaling up alone is not sufficient. We feel that the sustainability of the innovation is equally important. Of course, it is not a bed of roses. There are challenges that we encounter along the way, which I would really like to share. Let's take a look at the screen over here. These are the screens in the mathematics classroom. What is different in these mathematics classrooms compared to the traditional mathematics classrooms is that in these lessons here, the lessons are much more lively. The students are much more engaged. The students engage in role play, in reading story, in asking questions. And the teachers are not just teaching mathematics. The teachers are talking to the students, telling stories, creating jokes. So this is the atmosphere of the mathematics classrooms that we envision in the mathematics classroom. Mathematics classroom is not seen as that a one-way traffic of a teacher talk, but it's one that involves a two-way dialogue. And more importantly, the students are actively engaged in creating knowledge. So the new approach that we are advocating over here is the use of these comics to teach mathematics. This comics is used in place of the traditional textbooks or the old instructional materials that the teachers tend to use. What is so different is that the mathematics presented in the comics are able to engage the students and to make them excited about mathematics, as you can see from this screen over here. And we also have some very interesting things as seen from this slide here. The students are telling their own stories. They are not just reading the comics. Based on the comics, they are motivated, they create their own stories, and the teachers are participating in the story. And you can see the worksheet that's done by the students. The students create a graph of their own. They add in the numbers. They tell a story, an imaginary story. And not only that, you take a look at the PowerPoint slides done by the teachers. The teachers are trying to help us make the comics relevant to the students, to interpret it in a context that the students will appreciate. So a lot of effort goes in on the part of the teachers and the students. Why are they willing to put in so much effort? Is because something that really interests them, excites them, that really make them feel the relevance of mathematics. Here, there are more things. And you can see the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. The students are in the mathematics computer lab. They are reading the comics online. They are eager trying to read the comics and trying to answer the mathematics questions. And not only that, they are creating their own questions. So from here, you can see that the students are so engaged in not only solving the problems, but they are also engaged in problem posing. So a lot of interesting things that we see in the mathematics classrooms that use comics for teaching. And you can see the very animated expression of the teachers involved as well. The teachers are not just teaching in a very stern way, but the teachers are also enjoying with the students in creating and reading the stories. So a lot of things are happening in such an approach of teaching mathematics, the use of comics. And as a result of this research project that we conduct in Singapore schools, this research project has also captured the attention of the media, of the Singapore media. What you see over here is a newspaper report in the Singapore Straits Times that actually reports what we are doing. Reading comics in class is just a way to learn mathematics. And this newspaper article came out in 2016, and it actually received many reactions from the public about these research projects. And many of them felt that this research project of using comics to teach mathematics is a viable form of mathematics instruction. And we received many positive comments from there. So our comics instructional package, as you can see from the picture over there, is what we call an alternative teaching package or a replacement unit. So in our comics research project, all these comics reading material are to replace the traditional textbook. And the students, instead of reading the traditional textbook, they are reading these comics books. Of course, the comics books as a replacement unit contains all the material that's needed. It includes all the content that students need to learn and all the practice questions. And of course, the higher order thinking questions as well. So as what you can see from the screen over here. And not only that, our package has also attracted the attention of the media from overseas. I think this is a Portuguese newspaper, and they reported our instructional package of using comics in place of the traditional textbooks for teaching mathematics. And after this, we have several responses from several other countries, such as China and Brunei and Indonesia as well. Now, some of our preliminary findings in our research project of using comics as an alternative teaching approach to teach mathematics in the mathematics classroom, we get feedback from the teachers, and we find that the teachers find this package a useful approach to teach mathematics. And they feel that this is especially so to the low attaining students. In Singapore, we still have a large pool of low attaining students, students who are weak in mathematics. Why are they weak? They are not interested in mathematics. They don't find mathematics relevant. They don't find mathematics interesting. As a result of this comics package, they start to see how mathematics can be interesting with all the mathematics jokes inside. And more importantly, how mathematics is relevant in the real world. So these are some of the findings that we have in this research project. And when we observe the mathematics classroom, we saw many things that is even more encouraging. the teachers are not just passively using our comics package, they are also co-creating more useful resources based on this comics package. For example, many teachers infuse the 21st century competency into the package, which is actually beyond our initial expectation. A lot of exciting things, and the teachers include their own stories. Then the teachers interpret the stories in some form that is even more exciting, more relevant to the students than what the researchers, myself and my colleagues have expected. So we have very positive finding about the use of comics for teaching mathematics. Now, we started with 4 schools, and based on the data that we collected, we find that the students have benefited from this comics package. And not only that, the teachers have also benefited through the professional development that we conduct. Because before the teachers are able to use a comics package to teach, we actually have sessions, we sit down with them, we share with them the rationale, we share with them how we created the comics package, we share with them the ideas, how to enact the lesson using a comics package. And in return, the teachers are also actively participating in the creation of this package. We work with 4 secondary schools, and we implemented in these 4 schools using a design experiment approach. Once the package is designed, we actually implement it in the schools, in the 4 schools that we selected to be our research schools. So after our implementation, we see the constraints. For example, certain things don't work out so well. Certain things can be further fine-tuned. We might not have addressed the needs of the students, or certain things can be further enhanced. So we identify all the weaknesses and all the areas for improvements. And after that, we fine-tune the package. And in this way, we develop a community of practice. And after that, with this modified package, we actually, in the school, we went around a second cycle of experimentation. That means we try it out in the following year. And we continue with this cycle of modification until it is something that is hopefully workable in the school. So the whole experiment takes about 2 to 3 cycles for it to reach a stable state in a school. And of course, one thing that I would want to mention is that as we go to these 4 different schools, after this design experimental cycle that we carry out, the package becomes customized to the different schools. So it is no longer one blanket that fits all, but rather it becomes a customized package for the particular school. So we realize that this is something that is interesting, and we decide we should not just restrict to 4 schools, but rather we will extend to 11 secondary schools. And eventually we even move to 2 primary schools. Singapore is a very small country, so if you talk about 11 secondary schools, 11 plus 4, which is 15 secondary schools, that's about 5% of all the Singapore secondary schools. So the first thing, after we get some favorable results from the 4 research schools, we are thinking of scaling up. And in order to scale up, what we need to do is we need to have a package that is customized for the individual school. Scaling up is one of the important parts that we need to consider. And of course, in order for a research to scale up, for this approach to scale up to more schools, we actually have a lot of dissemination sessions to share with all Singapore teachers. So we held a series of colloquium to disseminate the practice to teachers from other schools, because we feel that for something that is useful, it should not be just restricted for a particular school, but it should be disseminated to more schools. So we have a lot of colloquium in which the researchers share. And not only that, we share our research experience in professional journal articles. We publish quite a few articles. And in these articles, we share our work, we share our findings, and we share our approach of carrying out such a study. We hope that we can reach out to all teachers in Singapore and beyond. And not only that, many research projects, as you see, whether it's in Singapore or in other countries, you can see that as the research ends, the practice also ends. It is not continued. We believe that the use of comics to teach mathematics, especially for the low attaining students, is something that's viable and that's useful. And of course, it actually helps to address the students' learning of the 21st century skills. As a result, we feel that sustainability is important. We do not want the case that when the research project ends, when the researchers like myself leave the school, this practice also dies there. So we want to have some form of sustainability. As a result, we have a channel of communication for the participating teachers. We keep a channel that's open. We build our website, which I show on the screen over there, which all our resources are being pumped into there. You can see all our comics projects. You can see our comic strips. And you can also see some of the comments from the teachers. You can see a lot of our resources over there. And more importantly, we put up a whole series of lesson plans. That means we are proposing how to use the comics package to teach the mathematics. And it is not just with the comics, it will work in the classroom. The teachers must play an active role in constructing the discourse and also invite the students to participate in the discourse as well. As a result, we actually come up with a whole list of lesson proposal of how to enact a comics mathematics lesson. And along the way, we receive feedback from many teachers. And based on this feedback, we actually come up with different versions, and even we fine-tune our existing versions of the lesson proposal. So these are some of our resources that we hope to keep it permanently there with a view of this practice being sustainable. Our project currently is coming to an end in a few weeks' time, but we hope to see that this project, this innovative approach proposed by this project, that is the use of comics for teaching mathematics, will be sustainable. As what we see in our research school, in several of our research schools, it has more or less become a permanent feature for a few of the classes. But of course, we are also mindful. It is not just the resources itself that works. We need to build up a pool of teachers within each participating school, or even cluster of participating schools, a pool of teachers who believe in this approach. That's very important. We, in addition to just putting up the resources available, we are also consciously trying to build up a pool of teachers within the participating schools who are experts, who are so-called the professional experts in using comics, or who are the advocates of this approach. And also we conduct professional development courses for teachers. For teachers for schools, or for teachers who are interested, they participate in the teacher professional development courses that we will provide. And also we get our pool of these teachers who are the champions in the use of comics to share their experience in their teaching using comics. So we provide all these channels for them to share. So you can see three of the teachers from our initial research schools, from 3 different schools. They are sharing their experience, what they have succeeded, and what are the things that they can fine-tune further. We do not want to just tell them, oh, comics is perfect, it's easy to use. But we want the real teachers to share their experience, their success stories, and even their frustrations, and how they can actually further fine-tune it. It is important for the other teachers to know what all these authentic classrooms using comics look like? Here, we use some form of so-called mentoring, which I'm not sure whether it is in the first place the right word to use. Because what we see is that we want to build up more teachers who are able to use comics in teaching mathematics. So we build up a pool of teachers who are experts in this, who believe in this approach. Not only do they believe and they are being happy to share, they are not just the heads of department in the school, but they are teachers who have dirtied their hands and tried out the teaching itself. They are the teachers who have built up their success stories. They are the teachers who have experienced the frustration. So we have a pool of these teachers, and they become what we call the mentor. And they will share their experience with the other teachers who are interested. We have a channel of a community of these learners. And in a way, we are advocating some form of subject-based mentoring. And it is not a generic form of mentoring. Just to share with you, Singapore, we have the generic form of mentoring. For example, in mathematics teachers, we have master teachers, we have lead teachers who will mentor the more junior teachers in the particular schools. But what we see, those are more generic. Over here, what we are trying to see is a group of mentors who are more subject-based. That means they are the expert in this approach of teaching mathematics using comics, and they are the one who is willing to share. And these mentors may not be very, very senior teachers. They can be just teachers with barely 5 years of experience. What is important is that they are good classroom teachers, they are willing to share, and they have positive experience, and they are reflective learners. So in this research project, as we move on, we also think of the sustainability in mind. So we are identifying this pool of potential mentors. What we really hope is that this pool of mentors will be able to help us multiply. That means we do not want this approach to die off after the research. So we want this group of teachers to multiply, the mentors to multiply, try to capture more and more people who are interested and widen this pool of potential mentors. Of course, this is what we have in our practice. But of course, I would just like to share with you some of our difficulties and frustrations as well. Not all is bed of roses. There's a lot of challenges that we encounter. And of course, it's still too early to say that whether we will succeed or we will fail. But I think it is good to share with you some of the challenges. There are two main factors that we see. One of them is the education policy, and of course, the school leadership is important. As this use of comics is not the overall part of the Ministry of Education's curriculum, this is done by the researchers. So of course, we do not have 100% support from all Singapore teachers, that is for sure. And even within the Ministry of Education, not all of them are totally supportive of this, even though they believe that students are naturally attracted to comics, and even though there are many research that point to the effectiveness of the comics in education. And also the school leadership plays a part. We have done with so many schools, 4 plus 11 secondary schools, that is 15, and 2 primary schools. We find that in those schools where we have the strong support of the leadership, the head of mathematics departments, the project went off quite well. But for those schools which we only have teachers who are interested, but the head of departments may not be keen, it was a bit hard to kick off, and it is a bit hard to multiply. Of course, another factor which I highlighted here in blue, the changing profile of the schools and the teachers is very important. is one of the factors that affects us. For example, in the initial few years, we have identified a few very good mentors in the use of comics in teaching. They are very good classroom teachers. They are able to use the comics very naturally, and they conduct good lessons. They are able to engage the students. But unfortunately, what happened is that in Singapore, a teacher is teaching 2 subjects. So after we have developed these mentors in teaching mathematics, in a few years down the road, the teacher has been asked to teach another subject, like physical education. So the teacher is no longer teaching mathematics. And because of this, the teacher could not devote the time, and they do not further develop themselves in mathematics. So we see this is a problem. We have developed a few very strong mentors, but after that, what happens is that after they are asked to teach the other subject, and they totally get out of touch with mathematics. And so as a result, we encounter this problem. This is the problem in Singapore, as in every Singapore teacher teaches 2 subjects. A lot depends on the school's deployment. For example, if the school suddenly doesn't need mathematics teachers because they have access, so the teacher will be deployed to teach the other subject. So we feel that these 2 are the most important challenges that my research project actually encounters. So let me just briefly mention. In our approach, in our research, we were very keen. We want our research, our innovative practice to be sustainable. So we have some form of mentoring scheme, but which is not a formal structured mentoring scheme like what we did in the Singapore, the official Ministry of Education. We have something that's less formalized. We get them to share, we build up a community of learners, we get them to share resources, we get them to share their experiences, and the researchers, myself, go in and actually give them some feedback. It is something that is not very formal. It is not so structured. Yes. And also, what we are proposing is something that's subject-based and is not so the generic mentoring, which is already in place in the Singapore Ministry of Education. Rather, we see as a team-based mentoring. The use of comics is the team. Again, one very important question that we realize is that what is important is to align it to the national policies. And also, what are the individual benefits that the teachers and the students can get? So we are still having this in mind, and we are still sorting our ways to go about doing it, as our research project is coming to an end in a few weeks' time. So I will end my presentation here. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Professor Toh Sin Lam, for your interesting presentation. So far, we have got a lot of questions in the chat box. And since some questions have already been answered, I would like to invite Professor Toh Sin Lam to select the prioritized question and answer. So now I would like to give this floor to Professor. Thank you. Professor, could you please unmute, sir?
Sorry. Yeah, just now when the video was played, I have answered quite a few questions. Perhaps I will just select some of the questions which I think may be relevant and actually that express my opinion. Okay, I think one of the very important question is that one of the participants mentioned that comics should not be the only approach to teaching mathematics, which is what I definitely agree. Yes, but maybe I can just share this whole idea of using comics in teaching mathematics arise in Singapore because there are a group of students who are not motivated in learning mathematics. They see that mathematics is useless, it's not interesting, so why should I learn? Even though Singapore has very high percentage of students who do very well in mathematics, but there are also many very weak students. So I think this whole project arises to help those really weak students to learn mathematics. And in our study, we find that why they are weak, main reason is because they are not interested to even begin. So the use of comics motivate them. get them excited, let them see the relevance. And after that, what is really shocking in our study is that even those so-called we say the weak students, the very weak students, they are able to actually engage in a very higher order thinking. So this is what we saw. Okay, I'm not proposing that this is the only approach, but this is one of the approach that we are exploring to work on our low attaining students and students who are not motivated in mathematics. So this is one question that I want to say. And also another thing, there are some technical questions like how to, all these drawings and all these things. The whole idea of this comics approach is not so much of the drawing, but rather how the teachers are using it for the teaching. Are you using it to teach mathematics? Or are you using the comics for students learning mathematics? Or are you using the comics to allow students to create their own knowledge? So I think we must get the right paradigm before we can decide on how to use the comics. Yes, this is one of the questions. Hang on, I think now that I saw a few questions coming out. Okay, maybe I will answer these few. Some students are very poor at math and some are either poor at English. So they will have one more challenge. Otherwise, what suitable ways do you overcome with such problems? Okay, in fact, one thing about comics that we get from students' response is why students are interested to learn mathematics through comics is because some of them, they are weak in language. They are poor in English. So when you have the problems presented in a contextualized situation, like in the case of comics, the students get so excited. They can make sense of it and they will slowly try to decode the information. They will chunk up the messages themselves and they will try to make sense of it. So what I see the power of comics is that it really engages them. They are willing to do one more step. When they are weak in mathematics, they will try to make sense of what is going on in the problems. Yes. So this is one thing that is powerful, is that it makes the students want to do things on their own and not just dependent on the teachers to do it for them. Yes. Okay, so I think this is one question that, hang on, there's another question. Singapore has a curriculum in teaching math too. So using comics in teaching response to each other. Okay, and how about the lesson content still remain the same? Yes, maybe I'll answer this part of the question. When I use comics, how does the content, what happens to the content? In fact, in another of my lecture, not here, this comics package is used as what we call a replacement unit. In other words, it is an alternative teaching package to what is the traditional textbooks. So using this package, we will cover all the content as in the usual curriculum. The only difference is that how the lesson is being carried out is different. A lot of student engagement, a lot of activities, but at the end of the day, the students learn the same thing. Yes. Okay, there's one more question. Do I have the time to answer?
Yes, of course, you have around 11 minutes more to answer the question.
Okay, yes. Would you show me the most important of challenges for applying mathematics at school? Now, one of the most important challenge, what I see, is a lot of the systemic structure of the school. For example, in my talk, I did mention, we managed to get the teachers to buy in. They start to believe in it, and when they implement the lesson, they see success story. Unfortunately, due to the school's deployment need, after a few years, they are shift to another to teaching another subject. So after we have developed them for a few years, for 2 to 3 years, the schools decide to change them to teach the other teaching subject. I do have many good teachers who are good mathematics teachers who are engaged, who embark on our research project. But after 2 years, they move on to teach physical education and chemistry, and nothing got to do with mathematics. This is a lot related to the school's deployment. So we find that we have actually built up multipliers, but unfortunately, we also lose teachers from here because they switch to another subject. Yes. Okay, one more question. Could you let me see the math curriculum of Singapore? The math curriculum of Singapore is available in the website. Yes, if you Google, you can find the Singapore mathematics curriculum there. So I will not show you here. If you can't find it, you can email me privately. Yes. Okay.
So thank you very much, Professor Toh Sin Lam. So in this case, would you mind sharing us some, challenges regarding how to, implementing as well as, using,
Okay.
the comic books in your context? Thank you.
Okay, one of the challenges is actually getting teachers to buy in, teachers believe. Getting teachers to believe, especially the more senior teachers who have actually taught in schools for many years, they have actually taught in their traditional ways, and they find that and those are recognized good teachers. They don't believe in these comics, and because the more senior teachers, they feel that comics is something that should not be in school. And because of this, they are not even interested to talk about more. So this is one of the most important challenge that we have. Of course, the more junior teachers, I think they are more receptive. Yeah, things turn out better. And especially it is useful for those teachers when they were students themselves, they are not so good students, not so good mathematics students. They understand the difficulties of learning mathematics. Yes, and these are the people who will actually find this package very useful. Okay, so I think, first of all, the challenge is to create the buy-in. The buy-in is very important. The teachers must believe in it. If the teachers don't believe in it, they just follow the procedure, go through the motion. Students are not going to benefit. Because when they start to implement the package, we do conduct the teachers' professional development with them. We did get the champion from the other schools to talk to them, to share the experiences, etc. Yeah, the whole idea is to create the belief in the teachers. Yes. Okay. Okay, there's one more question if I have the time to answer. Could you mention about the methodology of teaching mathematics?
Yeah, of course, Professor, you have around 5 minutes more to answer the question.
Okay, okay. Hang on. Would you mind, okay, could you mention, hang on, sorry, I think I tend to miss out a little bit.
Yeah, you're welcome, sir.
Could you mention about the methodology of teaching mathematics? Okay, I believe, if I'm wrong, please correct me. Could you mention about the methodology of teaching mathematics using comics? This is my interpretation. Okay, you see, first of all, the whole idea of teaching mathematics with comics is focused more on storytelling. It is not so much of, because the traditional teaching of mathematics is I give you the definition and an example, etc. Okay, which is very dull for most of the students, especially at the lower sec level, and especially those who are not motivated in mathematics. So when we use comics to teach mathematics, we are telling the students the story. And through the story, all the concepts of mathematics are being brought out. It is in a very informal way, not very, very structured, but when I tell you a story, the concept of geometry, the concept of percentages, everything starts to emerge. And the students get so excited because all these things are being inside the storyline. So as a result, this actually caused a whole series of discussion between the students and the teachers. And teachers ride on this opportunity to bring out all the related mathematics concepts. Yes, so the whole approach of teaching mathematics with comics is actually storytelling. And along the way, we have seen very successful cases of teachers trying to use role play, trying to get the stories, the students to act out the story and even create their own story. And we also saw situation of students trying to act out the whole comic, the whole set of comics through the live acting of the students. Along the way, you see a lot of very interesting and lively discussion going on. Yes, so the content, the mathematics content, everything is covered, nothing is lost, but the approach is different. completely different. Yeah. How to apply mathematics? I don't understand this question by Sokun T. How to apply math with life living for students? Okay, the other similar question, how to make students like study mathematics? Okay, I believe these two questions are quite similar. How to make students like studying mathematics? So first of all, we need to know why students hate mathematics. They hate mathematics is because of the way the subject is presented. Okay, the way that the subject is no relevance to the world at all. It is something that they cannot see. Is something from outside space, nothing in the real world at all. I think this is the main reason. So when we use comics, we use the opportunity. We provide the context to help students make sense of the content. To make sense of the content, and from there they will see that mathematics actually arise from day-to-day life. And we do not just stop there. We actually engage them in higher order thinking questions. Just like in everyday transaction, there's mathematics about fractions, about percentage. So we do not just stop there. We actually engage them further in higher order thinking questions. So that's why we think that as students see the relevance of it, they will get excited. And they will even create more things that teachers can't imagine actually. Yes. Are all items in math related to students' real life? This is a good question. So first of all, we must take a note of what is meant by mathematics, the discipline of mathematics itself. If you look at the mathematics today, not all of them are relevant to real life. A lot are theoretical. Okay, but if you trace it to the origin, how it originates, nobody will start to discuss something that's so unearthly. Everything originates from the real world. It's only subsequently when mathematics becomes so specialized that you have a group of people called mathematicians that create something that is out of this world. But if you trace to the origin, everything is in this world. Okay, so this is one thing to take note. So most of the things are relevant to the real world. But of course, another concept that I'm just a bit concerned is relevance is a subjective concept. What is relevant to you may not be relevant to me. You tell me, you see, in engineering, they apply this, they apply that, mathematics, but it's not relevant to me because I'm not going to be an engineer. So you see, so if you totally bang on relevance, it may not work for all students. You tell me mathematics is applicable in engineering, but I'm not going to be an engineer. It's not relevant to me. So there's one other dimension. That's what comics can actually tap on, which is mathematics is fun. Mathematics is the sexy thing. It's something that's ongoing. Everybody gets excited. It's just like a pop culture. Nobody will question whether it's, this is another way of looking at it. Yes. I think another way to tackle this is from the communication theory approach. Yes, mathematics is the in thing to go, you see? It's a fashionable thing. So we have to balance two sides. One is the relevance, and one is that it is something that is good to go for it. It's something like pop culture. Yes.
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah.
Sorry, there's one more question if I have time. The same is true in physics and chemistry, not only math. Yes, you see, from somebody called Roger Key, the same is true in physics and chemistry, not only math. Yes, I totally agree. But I think in physics and in chemistry, especially in physics, there's not so much of a problem because to contextualize physics is easier. To contextualize physics is easier, but to contextualize mathematics is actually harder. Because a lot of this physics you can see in the real world. You can explain a lot of the strange phenomena using physics theory. So I think physics has this advantage, you see. But mathematics, there is not. Because everything you see about mathematics is just a symbol, just a so-called meaningless symbol. So I do agree. The same is true in physics and chemistry, and in fact, biology and other science subjects. Yes. Yes. Okay. What is the solution to help students who are weak in mathematics? Like what I mentioned, students who are weak in mathematics, actually, I have carried out another small survey for the teacher's perception. Why are students weak in mathematics? And many of the teachers actually feedback they are weak in mathematics because they are not interested in mathematics. One thing. Another thing is, all the while since primary school, they have been failing maths. Because of this, they lose confidence. So this is a psychological problem. So we need to know what exactly is the reason that the students are weak in math. If they think they are weak in math, it's because mathematics is not relevant. Then comics will be very useful. If they are weak in mathematics, it's because all the while they have never passed math. They are so demoralized. They gave up on themselves. Then this is a psychological issue. Then I think we need educational psychologists to address this. So we need to know the reason. So it's very hard to answer this question. What is the solution to help students who are weak in mathematics? Yes. Okay, one more question. Could you reflect the way for the students in Cambodia to be good at mathematics? In the Cambodian situation, I believe I'm not sure, so I can't comment too much, but perhaps I do not know too much about your Cambodian mathematics curriculum. I think the overall mathematics curriculum framework plays a part. Do they take all these things into account? Okay, so it's very hard for me to tell, but what I think is the mathematics curriculum framework of the country is important. I have not seen it. So it's very hard for me to tell you how to make Cambodian students good in mathematics. I think we need to take a look at the Cambodian mathematics curriculum. Oh, I have 1 minute. Okay, sorry. So I believe I have addressed some of these questions already. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for your clear explanation, Professor. And thank you so much for both question and answer. I am pretty sure that this presentation as well as question and answer would be useful for our audience. So because of time constraint, we could not answer all questions that have been dropped in the chat box. So let us sorry for that. And the rest question would be answered in the forum. Thank you so much, Professor Toh Sin Lam, for your clear explanation and sharing with us.
Thank you.
So here come to the end of the presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.